Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to Insurance for the New Possible, a Chubb conversation. Today we are joined by Rodrigo Valiente, a VP and the head of digital for Latin America at Chubb, and Joaquin Richards, senior product lead at Nubank. Before we get to the main part of our conversation, we're going to go to Rodrigo first for a little bit of your background.
Okay. Thank you, Michael, for having me. I'm very excited to be here. Sharing a little bit about my background. I've been working with Chubb for the last 6.5 years. Okay. I think I'm employee number 2 or number 3 of the digital team when we started the whole operation back in Latam. And before that, I was doing M&A and investment banking in New York for a boutique firm. On the sales side, trying to sell digital companies to U.S. Buyers, and before that, I work in an insurer accelerator and in New York as well, and in Barcelona. So I think that's pretty much the last 10 years of my life. I have done things before that, but
this is all the relevant stuff.
Yeah, this is the ones I feel most proud of.
Fair enough. Joaquin?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks again, Michael, for inviting, and Rodrigo. It's super fun to be here at Singapore in person. So a little bit about me. I have been working on digital product for a little bit more than 10 years, right?
Okay.
At the moment, I'm head of product for the insurance business unit at Nubank, which is a digital bank in Latin America that we started in Brazil 9 years ago. And we have been developing in partnership with Chubb several insurance products the last 2 years, right? So that's basically what I'm doing right now.
I want to get to that in a second, right? But I want to back up a little bit and try to understand what was the thesis behind the founding of Nubank? Like, why do we need, it's in the name, right? It's new.
Yeah.
I love the spelling, by the way. But why do we need a new bank?
It's a great question. And I think reflects our mission also as a company. Like 9 years ago, as I told you, like David, the founder, right, which is not Brazilian at all. He was working in the US at a VC company that's called Sequoia, a super important one. He visited LATAM, specifically Brazil, to open and fund different businesses, right?
Got it.
He found out that the opportunity to building from scratch a bank was enormous. Why? Because like rates and like the profitability of the industry was super high, but at the same time, the experience that the customer was having was super bad. And I'm not joking. Like when you go to Sao Paulo, if anyone goes there, if you go to a bank branch, you're gonna see armed guards at the door.
Go ahead.
And you need to go through 2 or 3 doors, right? Remove all your things. Like when you go out to a plane, it's the security behind it. Like it's super strong. And the population that usually serve is the upside of the Brazilian population, right?
Okay.
So there was a huge opportunity given mobile technology to penetrate most of the country with better services, right? And it was highly profitable. So I think that's one of the big theses behind it, right? And has been proving so far. So we announced last week that we have 70 million customers, right?
I saw that announcement.
So, yeah.
But 70 million, can I ask about the growth a little bit just for my own edification, right?
Yeah.
I always think at the beginning, and you can tell me if you think I'm wrong here, right? At the beginning of any business, you feel like you're operating in a vacuum, right? You're just cranking it out every single day, and nobody in relative terms is responding.
Yeah.
Right? And we'll get back to you in a second, but does this make sense? And then at some point, people start to notice, and I always say it's like the reverse of going bankrupt, right? Which people say happens really slowly and then really fast. I think product introduction happens the same way. It goes like this, and then it just goes whoosh, if it works, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way we approach with Joaco and the team at Nubank, how we do the product development process, it's very, very unique.
Tell me.
They go very, very deep. He's going to explain better than me, but I love the way they approach, and everything starts with the customer, right? What is it? What problem do we want to solve together? What pain points are we going to attack? We do a lot of research. They do most of that research initially on their own customers, and then we start building hypotheses and cases and propositions around them, and then we start testing, and then we match qualitative data with quantitative data, and then once we start finding the first initial responses that get us excited, then we start thinking about scaling up and things like that. And it's a phenomenal learning and discovery process, right?
Correct. And can I add, like, I think most of the people think about this hockey stick, right?
Yeah.
Of the growth, something that is magical. Like, if you nail it down, it's going to happen. So they try to look for that magical moment.
Go ahead.
We are more careful about it, right? So at the beginning, we innovate a lot with a very few customers to understand what we call if we have great product market fit, and we measure it very good, right?
How do you measure this?
So there's one survey called Sean Ellis score.
Okay.
So you ask a sample of customers how would they feel if they have no longer access to that product, right?
Ah, interesting.
If it's more than 40-50% of the customer will feel very frustrated without having
it's like
access.
making them hungry, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm hungry and there's no food. I've given you food. What if I take it away?
Exactly.
Go
How
ahead.
would you feel, right?
Right.
If you measure this in most of the products out there, right, you will get readings like 20-30%. Like, we usually have 70% of measure on Sean score on our products, which is insane, right?
Yeah.
So once you understood that you have a great fit with that small sample of customers, right, then you can start thinking about scaling. Why? Because if you scale a leaky bucket, we call it, right? Like, you scale a product that people will cancel, will churn, right? All the efforts that you do on growth, there's going to be worth like nothing, right?
Actually, it's
Because
going to be
lose
lost.
those
It's going to be a losing proposition, right?
Yeah.
Because that leaky bucket, if you make it bigger, more stuff is going to leak out of it, right?
Exactly.
And also, I one thing that I love of how we have evolved as partners is that that conversation, if you think about it, in the specific case of insurance, is very focused on market fit and revenue and growth, right? But also there's a very other important conversation, which is profitability, right? And in the case of insurance, not necessarily comes at the same time that the growth is happening, right? Because of the nature of the business, right?
Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, the thing is that you start selling certain products, right? And we went through this in the middle of the pandemic with them. We were also learning how to make the product not only appealing to the customer in the sense of, I want it, but also how to make it profitable, right? And we had hard lessons there that we went together through that. And now the way we monitor, and one of key indicator that we discuss all the time is the loss ratio. Is this product making money or not? Besides the appealing essence of the product.
What does that development process look like, particularly when there's a partnership involved, right? In other words, if you're doing it by yourself, you can do all that monitoring on your own, right? And then make an internal decision only. But if you're doing it in partnership with somebody, like, where do you have to get? And you can talk about it in general terms, right? I don't really care about the number specifically. How do you know during a test, besides the other testing that you're doing where people say, I don't want you to take it away from me, but from a profitability standpoint, right, while you're building, when do you know to pull out?
I can start. I think
Go ahead.
when you get on a partnership, for me, it needs to be super clear what each of them is bringing to the table, right?
Go ahead.
So, like, I'm not gonna put a partnership if I don't get value out of it, and I'm not bringing value to the table, right?
Right.
What had happened to us is, like, when we started insurance as a business unit inside Nubank, right? We're 10 people. None of us were even worked for insurance before. Like, we had no idea, right?
And I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
But we knew how to build products, right? Like, we knew how to go there, engage with the customer, understand what they needed, right? And build for them. But yeah, like, we are smart. We know that if we underprice, like, we can be completely bankrupt in 2 years from now, right? Like,
Which is not a lot of fun, by the way.
No,
Go ahead.
it's a huge risk, right?
Right.
And we needed that expertise. And of course, the speed to market of having an insurance company and all of that. So we reach out to Chubb, and that's where that big partnership started. And if you see, most of our conversation is Nubank bringing, saying, this is the feedback that we have got from the customer. This is what we want to do. This is how we want to approach the product. Do you think it's a good idea or not, and why? And we discuss mostly the why, not necessarily the ideas, to understand like the underlying risk there, the underlying assumptions from the industry, like that there's a lot of things that we want to also challenge of general knowledge from the industry. So we have a lot of conversations together on saying, okay, this is the next big thing from the customer, right? How can we build it together?
So I want to ask you this, because you reacted right away when he said, we didn't know anything about insurance.
Yeah.
But bank assurance has always been part of the traditional distribution mechanism for insurance companies, right?
Yeah.
And you're relatively new as well in the
Yeah.
insurance business too, so you can challenge maybe some of the preconceived notions about how distribution takes place, particularly with a bank. But again, not a bank that's been around for 150 years. I joked earlier, it's in the name, a new bank. It's new.
Yeah.
So you can also challenge some of the preconceived notions. What is that like, and how is it different for a neobank for you? And then I want to get back to you in a second.
I think that what I said, if I had to describe my current role right now, 50% of my role is grow the business, make it profitable, and the other 50% is changing mindsets, changing the culture, changing the industry as a whole, changing the insurance industry.
But that has to be why you're there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like they take you from the outside. You've done the accelerator. You've worked in M&A. You've analyzed acquisitions of smaller businesses for bigger businesses. You should know this. And when you get brought into the business, they should think, this guy's going to change our mindset. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's been a wonderful journey since day one, because I remember having conversations 6 years ago with traditional people, underwriters, or which are, by the way, great at their job,
and
right?
Brilliant, yeah.
And they have been doing it very well. I mean, let's not forget that Chubb it's a traditional insurance company. It's an incumbent that has been here for decades, and it's been one of the fastest growing companies within a mature industry. So it's harder to come and say, you know what, I'm a digital guy. We are going to do things completely different. Why are we going to do it? We have been growing like insanely for the last few years or the last decades, and you are going to tell us to change that, all that? Why? Right? So
this is the future, though, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So the challenges were there, and they're still there, and I'm passionate about that, right? Creating a new company and changing the industry and changing. And at the end of the day, building better value propositions for customers. Because when you think about the value proposition of the insurance, it's so novel. It's so important, right? We save life. We help them people get back on the feet. If your apartment gets on fire, we put you in a hotel until it's recoverable. Same with life. We help your family after you pass out, etc., right? So the challenge I see is that message, that value proposition, not necessarily reaches the end customer properly in a digital environment right now, where it can be done so much fast, so much better, right?
So when you're looking at product co-creation with a neobank, were there things that you wanted to do before the partnership that you felt like, hey, maybe we can do this with Nubank?
Yes, and they brought also new and better ideas as well. And also the thing how I see Nubank and the team and the guys is that it's just not me any longer, right?
You don't feel
fighting the big corporation. Right now we have a strong partner who has done an amazing job in banking, right? So they have some credit worthiness, no? So these guys are smart, and now they want to do the same thing in insurance. So it's not just me now or the teams, or I'm joking about the me thing. There's a lot of people behind me that supports me and believe in us, but now it's these people, these guys who have done an amazing job with the banking that want to do the same for insurance. So it's like a phenomenal partner to be.
So what does that look like to you? What does a digital first customer experience look like to you in the insurance space, right? Where again, it's greenfields for you, and you have a willing partner on the other side going, just tell us some new stuff so we can help you implement it. What does it look like to you?
Great. So again, we are very customer focused, right? So when I need to define how it would look like, I go to a customer and say, okay, what do the people expect, right? They have been using their mobile phones, WhatsApp, Google, Facebook, whatever, right? Like, and the technology that this company uses is well known worldwide. So
can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So again, I live in Southeast Asia. I lived in Asia for 30 something years, right? So I have all this kind of embedded knowledge. Just because it's happening around me, I get it by osmosis. In Thailand, where I live, and in most of Southeast Asia, it's mobile first.
Yeah.
Almost everything, right? Particularly for the new generation and your potential new clients. And not only is it mobile first, all these digital customer experiences, right? No one's against it in a way. Yeah. But I also know that many people have one mobile phone, two mobile phones for different use cases, one for business, one for private.
Correct.
What is it like in the markets in which you operate? And then talk about what they think about those product developments, if you don't mind, because I don't know.
Yeah, no, completely. So yeah, mobile leapfrog all the digital experience for everyone in developing countries. So in Latin America, we have more mobile phones than people. So it's very similar.
Yes. More mobile phones than people.
Very similar than here in Southeast Asia.
Right.
Like getting a computer and getting internet connection was way more costly for everyone.
Right.
Getting a mobile phone is table stake for everyone in Latin America, right?
Right.
We say that LATAM runs on WhatsApp, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can build businesses, you can build whatever under WhatsApp. Like, it's like everyone will have at least one mobile phone with internet connection. And on there, you have a lot of these free apps that you use, and they give you a great value, right? And a great usability and for free. So that's the expectation that has been built up.
Interesting.
Everyone.
Okay.
If you're not going to be at least delivering the same experience, right? Like, you're falling behind. And if you go into insurance, like, you go into the companies, you say, okay, like, how well prepared are you for this digital experience? Like, can I open and file a claim 2 a.m. a Sunday from my phone and get paid 30 minutes after that? No, that's impossible. Why? Why would it be impossible, right?
Right, because this is the thing. They're already used to some kind of e-commerce experience where they're literally having a cup of coffee with their sister. They're going, oh, give me a second, I need to buy that thing. And they buy it, and then it shows up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't care if I like to do it Sunday, 3 a.m., right?
Yeah, it doesn't
do
matter.
it whenever you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So is that the same thing?
The same thing. So that's the minimum, like this table stake, right?
Right.
Then we go very in depth about specific, like, what's the business we want to build, what's the specific category, who is the customer we segment on behavioral, we spend several months on each of the products. So each product will have the specific needs, right?
Yeah. What is the knowledge base like in the markets in which you operate, just about the insurance product in general? Again, I don't know because I don't live there.
No, highly underpenetrated. There's no knowledge about insurance at all, right? Like, so
nobody wakes up in the morning in Latam and said, "Oh, what a great insurance product I'm going to buy today," right? Nobody does that. And you could say that there are a few products that people are more aware of. The pandemic also changed a little bit some of their health, life-related products, but still, it's mostly a push industry.
And if you see how
even
the
in the countries, in the countries that it's mandatory to have a specific product. For instance, in certain countries, you have to have auto product. And you say, okay, the auto penetration of the product will be 90% of the country. No, it's even less than 40 in some countries.
And the disconnection between what company has been doing to be more digital, right?
Yeah.
And what the customer needs, completely off, right? Yeah. So I like to joke on life insurance, right? Imagine you're walking through your city and someone with a suit stops you and say, how much money do you want in case you die? Like, there's no answer. Like, no one has that answer. There may be one person in the whole world that knows how money he wants, right?
But it's a really good question, right? In other words, if you're not insured,
that's the digital experience. You open the insurance. Any competitor, first question, how much money you want in case you die.
Yeah. The reason why I'm thinking about this is because I bought health insurance at the beginning of this year. And that was one of the things when they were selling, and this woman was selling health insurance to me. She said, what happens if something bad happens when you're in the hospital or something like that? How much life insurance do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. What do I need? Yeah. Right, but I love this idea. It's just some dude in a suit walking over to you in the street.
It's the same. They're trying to digitalize that experience.
So how do you fix that? Right? How do you fix that with digital?
So you make the question that really customers want to answer, or they know how to answer, right? How much money would you be willing to pay every month? Are you comfortable the budget that you have every month to get cover for your funeral, some money for your family, for this?
Okay.
And you set up the key things that they need, right? And you set up a slider when they can understand how much they would be comfortable paying every month. That's a number that they know, right?
Right, because they know what their month. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. And on top of that, it's not only, I think, what the number that Joaquin was describing, or that they're comfortable paying. It also is the message that you're empowering them. Right, you are giving the power to them to design their product, right? To design what they're going to be protected about, and not the other way around. Like the guy with the suitcase that he was putting examples. Oh, this is the product, this is the coverage, and this is how much you need to pay. Right. Why?
But do you also find that if you empower your potential customers, that there's no longer a two-sided product co-creation situation taking place, but it's almost like a triangle? Where the more you involve the customers in that digital experience, that now you're saying, hey, it's not just how can we work together with Chubb and how can we work together with Nubank, but how can we work together with our customers to make sure that we're not, I like to say, right, like there are things that I know, and there are things that I think I know. So I think I may know how you want that digital experience to be. But if I'm building that triangle, then everybody's involved. Are you seeing that as well?
No, that feedback loop is like definitely part of the definition on how we build products.
Okay.
The product is never ready, right? Like,
Right.
Never.
Right. It's never done for sure.
Never done for sure. Customers' expectations change every day, right? So it's impossible to have like full expectation fulfilled by them. So like naturally you will have new things to build every day. But yes, that's how we approach. Like we try to have different hypotheses on why the product is better or it's a great fit for the specific needs. And whenever we launch it, the number one data point that we get to keep on improving it, right, is the customer feedback. We get customer feedback from different channels, right?
Can we be flexible enough so that if we build a product, like you said, if the product building is never really done, and there may be no great answer to this, right? I'm just curious. But as you're getting constant feedback, and we can dig into the data side of this as well, how flexible can you be to change that product? Do you know what I mean? Where somebody says to you, if I would buy this and actually get a little bit more of this if I just had that thing. Yeah. And because it's digital first, and because it's mobile first, and because of the way software gets developed, it's essentially a software product at some level, right? Obviously with math behind it for sure. But how flexible can you be in sort of the tweaking or the iteration of that product over time?
You want to take it first?
Yeah. So it's, again, we designed knowing that we don't know what's going to happen as what's going to fit to our customer.
Right.
So we need a great definition of a platform before that will allow us to give like a huge amount of different possibilities to that customer, right? And see where they find their fit. And it's like you have 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 options, right? And you keep on like improving that experience to see where you will find that customer need that it's impossible to map beforehand, right? Because it's thousands of customers. So what we do is we have a well-defined like base layer of things that we want to offer. And that's where we work very closely with Chubb and digital first. And like whenever like we start creating a new product, like we have a very long list of things that we want to have connected and integrated between the two companies. But then when you see the actual experience that you have on the app, it's super simple. So there you have all this learning, the full opportunities that you can offer. But at the end, like you tweak every week, what are the small things that you're going to offer and personalize for different profiles to make it super simple. So I think, yes, there's a layer that we have a platform, and this is where we integrate with Chubb. I want to hear it from you as well, right?
No, I agree 100% what you just said. And then when you add to all that the underwriting behind, it's where it gets a little more complex for us, and that's why I love working with them.
Well, that's why I love to see the back and forth.
Yeah, no.
What's happening on this side is different than what's happening on this
absolutely.
side.
But
which
that's
makes it cool.
Yeah, that is exactly why we love working with them, because they challenge us constantly on how do we can create a new underwriting model or expand or stretching the flexibility of what the product actually means, and that is a phenomenal process for us as well as learning. And the challenges are there, but that we will love to take on them, and we love to experiment. So in our case, it's not so much about the technology per se. I think that is something that we're going to keep on building and upgrading and improving. It's much more about how do we build new underwriting models, how do we take new data points to construct products, how do we track. Again, it's not like only about the right price, the right premium, it's the profitability that not necessarily we have the answers right away. We have to spend some time learning, right? So it's a whole...
Sorry, do you find that you have to convince people not to say no first? Do you know what I mean? Because what you're doing on the back end is supremely complex, right?
I would say that was the case 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
That's not the case anymore in general.
You've seen it change, though. Right? You'd walk in before and go, hey, can we do this? No. Yep. Even if it was a maybe.
Yes.
Right? The mindset change for me is always moving away from no as the first answer.
Yeah. That I think we passed that now. Obviously, there are cases and cases, right? If you want to build a rocket to the moon, I mean, well, we'll have to think about it. But we are in a much more openness moment in the company.
What I see very difficult from Chubb's side, that that I push and we push on our partnership a lot is the amount of uncertainty, right? They need to build up on their models.
Right.
Because you think about it this way, right? I'm going to launch life insurance, right? I feel very comfortable saying, I don't know what's going to stick.
Right.
I don't know
what you don't know.
And the Brazilians and our main targets, they never been served by an insurance. So I don't have market data. I don't have, I have a couple of interviews, I have surveys, I have a lot of things, but the reality is going to come up. And I'm very open to say, a year from now, we're going to learn a lot. But from an underwriting perspective, right? Saying, okay, give me these 20 different coverages. I might use 2 or 3. I don't know.
Right.
Give me this all different range of amount insured I'm going to offer. I don't know what customers are going to pick, right? If imagine building all that uncertainty into risk models, right? How do the people is going to understand how much money is the one that they were going to be putting into claims and how many people are going to claim? That's very hard. So working with innovation and insurance, right? I think what Chubb was very good on the last 2 years and a half, and we're pushing for them, is understanding that there's uncertainty. And the first year of the business, we're going to monitor a lot. We're going to learn. We're going to improve our models, right? If we need to tweak the prices, we're going to do it, right? But that uncertainty first to learn, right, is what you need to have on a partner right now in insurance to win.
And the way, in my opinion, that's I agree. I couldn't agree more. And also, for us to take that step to get there, and like he said, I'm very happy that he's happy that we are improving. Is that it's trust, right? It's building the trust between the two companies. I mean, when we work with several other partners as well, and not with all of them, we can have these discussions. The discussions are more around how much money they're going to make on commissions or profit and stuff, and not so much about how do we learn together.
It's so much easier to give negative feedback to somebody if you feel like they trust you.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Exactly.
Is that fair? Because you know you're not going to ruin the relationship just based on saying, I don't think that's going to work, and here's how I think it's going to work. Because it's not ad hominem, right? It's not a personal attack. It's more just like, we can make this way bigger. Yeah. And this is why I love talking about partnerships, right? Because I learn a lot too. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, we can make it way bigger if we do it better together, but this is not going to work. Yeah. We know that's not going to work. Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask you this too? Do you feel like in the time that you've been doing this and co-creating these products together, that as you educate the market, right? Because if penetration is low, that must mean knowledge is low. We've already talked about this. But do you find that the feedback that you're getting, even in little bits and pieces, is becoming more sophisticated or more useful over time as the market now becomes more knowledgeable? Right? When you get to 70 million customers, right, you must start getting more useful feedback. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
do you see that?
Completely agree. So what I've seen is a lot of customers canceling the decision they made first, so the policy that they had, and rehiring immediately an hour or two after for a better combination of what they wanted to have.
So they're learning.
Yeah.
So they're thinking, I need this thing. And then they're like, oh, actually, I don't need that anymore. What I really wanted was this.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. We have a lot of customers asking for new insurances. That is mind blowing, right? Like they call in.
That's what you said before. People don't wake up and ask for insurance.
That's what they're changing.
I love this. Though.
Listen to this. They had a waiting list of people that want to buy a product that we haven't released it, that we were changing and we're testing.
Wait a second. So you have a wait list for release it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different big assumptions on the insurance industry that I hate them. And
you know where I stand.
For us,
you know where I stand.
And for us,
I say it all the time.
And for us, if maybe like I want to break them, right? So there's no way you can. There's no way you can sell life insurance online like that. That one has been proven, but well, maybe the other one that we were talking, right? But yeah, anyways.
I want to go back in product history, right, to separate a little bit from insurance and just talk about technology. If you would ask people even in the late 80s and early 90s, are you excited about waking up and buying a computer? They just would have been like, what are you talking about, right? And I'm a little bit biased. I'm a Mac person, right? But like when the iMac came out and it was in different colors and it became exciting, and then the iPhone, people lined up to buy it. Yeah. Right? And I don't think that an insurance product or a financial services product is that much different per se. And if they're already lining up, that's not a bad thing, right?
No, absolutely not. But I think that it's a combination of several factors that why that happens, right?
Okay.
I think one key, in my opinion, is that the reputation that Nubank has in terms of any kind of product that they build for their customers, right? So the customers start the conversation with, oh, if they are offering me life insurance or cell phone insurance, it's because maybe they have very well analyzed what I need or what I want, right? Like I can let's test it. Let's see what they are talking about because they trust it. Right now, Nubank is probably, if not the most beloved brand in Brazil.
Yep.
It's a bank.
Exactly.
You will have that conversation. You will ask that question 5-10 years ago. People will say they hate banks.
Right. So when
it's not by chance, right?
So I want to get to you in a second, but I just want to make a comparative point. When Max Levchin, right, who comes out of PayPal, launched a firm, he did a study, and the top 10 least loved brands, so the other side of this, in the United States, were all banks.
Yeah.
So that's just to corroborate what you were saying. Sorry, go ahead.
Correct.
It's not by accident.
The worst ones, we measure NPS, we measure a lot of things, brand. The worst ones are financial services and telecommunications company.
But was it just because when they go to the bank, they were the armed guards there because that experience was so bad?
No,
or was it also the service?
There's a lot of exclusion, right? If you go into financial services, you will find out that like the highest end of the income, like it has higher NPV. Then if you go into the middle, it's harder. So I think it was several years of optimizing the local business for the different banks, right? But anyways, I was saying it's not by chance because we have it embedded on our culture, right? Our biggest goal, we call it the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal, is to get to 100 million fanatical customers. And we measure that fanatism.
How do you measure that? Is it an NPS thing where you're measuring the fanaticism?
We have several things of behavior inside the bank, right? But this 70 million customers, right? That's an acquisition measure, right? We do have our own expectations of we will get to the fanatical customer, right? We want fans before we even scale, right?
Can I ask you this, though? When you're building that out, right, do you think specifically when you're building products, is this person going to be fanatical about loving this product?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do you actually have those discussions back and forth?
Yeah. We have that push every day from our management team at the bank, right? They care more about, okay, what are the wows initiatives, right? Like how they can be fully amazed. What are the delighters that we have in these products? Like there's a lot of concepts that probably don't exist in the insurance industry overall. And we have more of those questions asked by our internal teams than what's going to be the budget or the earning for next year.
Yeah.
Do you have surprises when you roll out products where you think maybe this could be really successful and then it ends up just blowing up? Do you know what I mean? Where you learn something new, where you thought, okay, this could be good. People may wow this thing, and then it just goes, where more people love it than you expected?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. And the assumptions that the investments of time, right? That I'm very focused about the time that we invest on building different products. Like when you're building products, you assume that customers are going to love a lot of things, right? We had a discussion with Chao about the term of the policy, right? It's going to be a 1 year, 5 year, 10-year terms, a whole term policy, right? That is very impactful on the risk. It's very impactful on the price, right? And could be very advantageous for the customer, right? So we, as customers, fans, we wanted to get the best one of it. So we iterated a lot. And then we went to the market. Nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
What's the reaction internally when you do that? You do all this work, all this research, and you put it out there and people are just like, I don't know.
No, we have learning cycles. We have into our rituals, right? Into our meetings, a lot of things that are, okay, what we have learned. So we have every 2 weeks, we go PPP, which progress, plans, and problems, right? And in the problems, we put the learnings, what we have learned. And we are way more focused on learning than making progress. And we share every Friday, we have like an all hands meeting with all the insurance, business unit. And mandatory every Friday, someone needs to share one of the learnings that we had.
Are you excited to work in a place where culture is so important that, and I'm going to generalize a little bit, right? But where learning essentially is more important than the failure that's associated with that learning.
Yeah.
That's got to be super exciting. Where you can wake up every day and actually say, that didn't work, but it's not fatal.
But that's the competitive advantage, right?
I don't disagree with you at all. I completely agree.
But
don't you see it differently in other places? I mean, that type of company culture is super hard to build.
Completely agree. But if you're thinking about the next 2 or 3 years, right, maybe you can build an execution engine, right, that all the things that are known and execute there and win. If you're thinking for the next 10 to 50 years,
right,
that's not going to work. Like we already comment, like the customer expectations are going to change. The industry is going to change. Everything is very dynamic, right? So if you don't build everyone and the culture to learn first, right, you're never going to build the knowledge advantage that you need to be winning 50 years from now.
Could not agree with you more. And this is actually for both of you, right, from completely different organizations. But the company culture is super important. And you come in, right, and you're building an entire new business. Yeah. So when you hire people, how do you know? Do you know what I mean? Because it's really hard. And we know this from our own business, right? But how do you know whether they fit into that company culture? I'm curious.
Well, of course, for me, in my case, culture is the most important thing I look when we hire.
Yeah,
it's the most important.
Do you have a fixed way of not testing for it?
It depends on the role a bit, and but on the person and what we're looking for. But in general, there are certain traits, and the ones I look the most are the customer centricity mindset. It's that I really have to feel it, right? I have to feel that the person really cares about the customers.
How about you?
It's super hard.
It's hard, right?
So
because you can find a super skilled person, right? Somebody who can literally juggle like 25 balls when they're lit on fire. But if they don't fit into the company culture, it doesn't matter.
No, and we have that. That's definitely a very clear no, right? So we have a lot of different processes, and I hire and interview not only for insurance, for all new bank, right?
Yep.
But it's this specific role, product management. So we do have a lot of testings, a lot of different challenges to understand where they optimize, if they're caring for customer-centric or not. But at the end of the day, and the end of the process, a very long process, it's super uncertain how that person's going to react and evolve, right?
Yeah, in a way you can't know, right?
Yeah, and we don't expect people to like fully fit into the culture. We also expect them to be building the culture that we want in the company for the next year.
Right.
So it's a cultural add, right? The things that the person is adding to our culture are going to make us better. And yeah, maybe I'm a little bit more comfortable with uncertainty, but yeah, just watch and see.
and if I may, I also like to add that in our case, that example was for bringing people outside of the organization.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But then we have a lot of internal recruiting, and we have our process and stuff where we look there is a little different than when we bring someone from.
Because different roles have
you know what where we're seeing a lot is people from other areas that want to transition to digital.
So that's the other question, right? Mm-hmm. And this is a little bit tricky, but you know, at some point, I believe, and I did this in my business, right, when I was at Goldman Sachs, there was like a technology department and the business units. Yeah. And at some point, you saw them just going like this, getting really closer and closer together. And I feel, at least in my experience in dealing with incumbent insurance companies, insurtechs, new banks, no pun intended or pun maybe slightly intended, that there's this merge going on between like who's in the digital transformation group, who's in the business group, or is it just all becoming digital, right? So that's kind of what you're suggesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't conceive any longer that product should be separated from distribution or business. It's not. It can be. It can be for the economy that we are seeing in the world, how the world is transitioning, how the ecosystems are interacting. They can be as separate teams, right? One of the roles that he was mentioning with product managers, if you start going and look into what skills besides the culture, what skills you are looking when you are looking for roles like that, you ask for certain specific things like product knowledge, right? Or product development, of course. Customer-centric design and technology, right? Yeah. If you don't have at least those three skills, you're obviously going to have more in one than another, right? Yeah. But that you can handle comfortably. I mean, because those are, I think, in my opinion, one of the most important roles we're gonna see in the next few years.
I want to end this with a little bit of a conversation about data, because just like being digital, I don't think you can run these businesses at all without building an understanding of how data works and what it means. When the company first started, was there already an embedded understanding that data was going to be really important and started to build that out from the beginning. And obviously, the longer you go and the more customers you have, now it's 70 million, the more data you can have.
Yep.
And then you can hopefully make, I wouldn't even say better decisions, but more informed decisions. Is that part of the company culture as well?
Yes, completely. Not only better decisions, but it's from a market perspective is one of the biggest advantages that you can get.
So this is part of the moat around the business, yeah? Go ahead.
So when we started 9 years ago, Nubank started, right? They started first as a credit company, which was completely different from any other digital bank that you've seen the story of around the world.
Right.
So they started with the credit card first, right? Didn't have an account, a wallet, whatever, with the app, right?
It's almost like backwards, but it's okay.
Completely
Like
different.
not in a bad way, just in a different
But
way.
why?
Yeah.
Because they were thinking about the customer first,
Right.
and
What
the
do they need?
relationship we need to have with them.
Yeah.
And I will give you money first, right?
Right.
That trust, right?
Yeah.
I will build it first from my place to yours, than the other way around.
Right.
But the hard part is, right, if you're going to give money out, right, if you don't know anything about the credit risk, like, you could default in 1 or 2 years.
Okay.
So there was like a learning mindset from the beginning, but very small escalation and growth, right? And the first 5 years, we got from the 100% of the new applications we got, we could only accept 20% or less, right?
That's
So
okay.
the growth was very, very small, but we were creating a banking experience from a digital credit card, right? That was completely different and several times better than any other on the market. But that's the data, right? So when we learned what was the best underwriting model that we had, and we had it better than any other banks, we could open to all Brazil. And now we're better underwriting than anyone else, right? So we have less risk and we can give more credit to our customers, building this amazing experience.
Can I say that it also has to help on the customer acquisition side, right? Because if you give me something first, and this is one of my business tenets as well, right? If you give somebody something first, their first, because they'll have a credit card, they'll take it out to pay for dinner or pay for something, right?
Yeah.
Their friend will just say like, "What's that card?
Yeah.
And how do I get one?"
Yeah.
Right? So the marketing is actually, and the spread of it is actually much easier, no?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the only ones digital banks in the world that had no acquisition cost for their customers. No, like it was 100% word of mouth, right?
Yeah. Really interesting. Did you want to comment on the data as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for an insurance company, data is everything, right?
Yeah.
It's like we live on data, we drive on data. The difference, I think, now is not about we need data. I mean, that's a given. I mean,
Sure.
It's which data,
Right.
how fast,
Right.
where, how, what do we
what
do
to
with
do
it,
with it.
what do we do with
How do we
it,
clean it?
yeah, how do we clean it, how do
Right.
we build better experiences, better products, and all that. Everyone talks about, I don't know, paramedic insurance, okay, but on what data you build it, or telematics, right, the
Right.
driving behaviors.
Sure.
What about the cell phone insurance? Today, we underwrite products based on the make and the model of the cell phone that you get, or your credit risk in the case of Nubank. But that doesn't really tell you who you are.
Not really.
If
Behavior stuff is left out, yeah.
completely different. I mean, and now we're exploring other ideas. Like if that person we know, when do they charge their phone? They might have a different behavior than the other one. If they wait until they have 5% less battery, we can. And then start building all
My
those new
phone's
models.
always charged, by the way, but go ahead.
Okay, then you have a better price. And then the conversation can go on. Data is, I mean, I think one of the next frontiers for us, and building the capability, the platforms, the technology to leverage, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to thank you both for doing this today. Rodrigo Valiente, VP, Head of Digital for Latin America, Chubb, and Joaquin Richards, the Senior Product Lead at Nubank. Awesome. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.